Hey guys, it's Caban from True Champion Gaming, and we have a really cool list for you today. So this list is very heavily inspired from the 6th place list in the nearly 200 player C Regionals. I forgot the player name, but Isaac's gonna put the info up on the screen right now. And yeah, huge credit to this player. I basically took his list and made a couple of changes, but the list is very heavily influenced from his list. So, you know, 6th place out of almost 200 players, it's a lot of rounds. The list did very well. I heavily encourage you to use sylvie.gg or any other tournament report website to go check out his original list. So let's go ahead and get into our list though, the little modified version that I put together. You know, fixed a couple of matchups that I didn't really like. I'm sure it got some strengths and some weaknesses. But we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. So we have Spirit of Wind. You know, we're wind allies. So Lorraine level 1, and the only sword that we run is Sword of Seeking. So that is important to know because we do run Innovate Agility. If you do D-level from level 1 to level 0, you won't be able to bring out another sword. I wanted to try to fit Ornamental in here, but you really just couldn't fit it in. Then we have Lorraine level 2. Wind allies are still around, you know, so we are running sweeps. This is just a really good utility kit for how the meta is right now. Drawn Blade, really great way to use up some floating memory that you might have and also to keep attacking with your champion. You know, this is kind of the flex spot to me, honestly, because we do also run Eye of Argus. So in an absolute pinch, if you have a floating memory that you need to use up, this essentially is a Drawn Blade just without the 1 extra damage, which does matter. But if you did want to run, you know, an Ornamental or something, you could cut that Drawn Blade for the Eye of Argus. Then we run Nullifying Mirror. This is pretty much needed for most decks nowadays, but especially like aggro type decks. You know, stopping your opponent's Veiling Breeze is very good. Then we run Tariff Ring, pretty self-explanatory, as well as Safeguard Amulet. These are usually just the auto defense inclusions for your material deck. Then we have a pretty sweet one here. So Synthetic Core, a card that I honestly have forgotten to use once I bring it out. This is whenever a non-token automaton ally you control dies, you may banish Synthetic Core. If you do, return that ally to your memory. So it's basically a zero-cost draw card, just obviously with some stipulations. But what I really do like about this is that you're kind of in control of this. So if they kill a unit that you know, just isn't really that needed, you know, let's say that you put out an Eternal Magistrate, they killed it off, and you're playing against a deck where you're like, it's not really going to come up that much. You don't have to pop core, right? You could wait until they kill like a Rose or a Shimmer Cloak or an Andronica or something like that, pop core, and now you're drawing a card, but you're controlling the card that you're drawing. So if you really could utilize that Andronica again, because it's such a strong unit, you can do so with that. So this card was really cool. You do just have to remember it's on your board, because honestly, I did forget that in testing sometimes. Then Backup Charger, it's in every deck right now, but the power cell is actually really nice for this deck. So Backup Charger feels better than ever. Can't get enough. And then we are running Mercurial Heart. So this card actually felt amazing to play in the deck. You know, you have a ton of automatons in here, so you're almost always going to have a target. Bumping up an Eternal Magistrate from a 1/3 to like a 2/4, keeping it alive even better against decks that like the Magistrate's really shutting them off, feels really amazing. Or Shimmer Cloak turn 1 into a Mercurial Heart, really nice to have a 3/3 stealth unit. There's just so many utilities for this card, and then it being a power cell is also really important. Before I jump into the main deck, just want to give a quick shout out to a couple of sponsors and other things. So dragonshield.com, we have a code TRUE5 that you can use to get 5% off your order, or you can click the link below. That'll also give you 5% your order, and it actually gives us just a little bit more of a kickback. You know, GA has a bunch of Dragon Shield products now, so definitely go to dragonshield.com, check out all their amazing sleeves, including their GA collaboration ones. We also are partnered with perfectfittcg.com. You can go over there and order anything on their website. They do have Grand Archive sealed product. They have pre-orders up for heaven. A bunch of good stuff over there. Again, use code TRUE5 there, TRUE5, all one word, and you will get 5% off your order as well. Also, go check out our Patreon. We do 2 weekly posts there, a podcast every week, and also some sort of meta / card analysis video every single week, with the occasional level 3 high depth profile as well. Sometimes their deck profile is just a deep dive on some really competitive content, like the Water Arasana list that we had spoiled a month before it started topping Ascents. So definitely go check out the Patreon. There's a free trial on there as well for you to go to check out. No risk at all. What are you waiting for? And our Michigan Regionals are coming up January 11th. Ticket link sales will be in the description below. It'll take you to our webpage. You can purchase your ticket there. You can also read up on all the information and pricing there. We are going to have so many giveaways, guys. It's going to be insane. So let's go ahead and jump to the main deck though. So jumping into the main deck, I'm actually just going to immediately talk about Overlord. So I have no doubt in my mind that Isaac put this either in the name of the video or the thumbnail or something, because we've all been really wanting to actually play Overlord and not have it be a meme. And like I said, guys, this list is heavily inspired from the list that got 6th place in that almost 200 person event. That's really insane. So we know that this list does work. We know that his list works at least. And yeah, Overlord has actually felt not like a meme. When we first looked at the list, I was like, I have to test that. I have to try it out. I have a feeling that he just played Wind Allies and maybe sometimes got Overlord out for the meme, but the more I played this deck, the more I realized that it's actually a really good kind of second win con in the list. So we are running Automaton Allies, which has been around in the meta before. When MRC first released, it was running around pretty heavily, especially when like Slimes was doing really well. It was a good counter to Slime, so Automaton Allies isn't a new archetype by any means, but this list is bringing Automaton Allies back with kind of a backup plan to its biggest weakness of the strategy for Automaton Allies is pop a bunch of power cells on a unit, swing with it, rally at advance, swing with it again, and do this like really tall damage with Wind Allies that other Wind Allies can't do. However, it has huge weaknesses in reprogram, first of all, but also like ally displacement. So things like Zephyr or Thunderclap or something that's going to kill an ally or just stop that attack at fast speed. Overlord MK can be a really great option. So if you're really worried that your opponent is going to Zephyr you or something, you're playing against a Wind deck that's always holding up cards against you, think Wind Kongming, you can just bring out Overlord instead. If they, well, they can't Zephyr it actually, that's Spell Shroud, but this is just a lot less fragile against them, but it does take some setup. So this card, it does require 4 power cells to be sacrificed. The nice thing is that your Mercurial Heart does count out as a power cell, so you can bring this out, you can buff one of your other units, still apply some pressure, fight for board, whatever, and then later in the game, this will count as one of the cards that you have to sacrifice for Overlord. That's why Mercurial Heart is so good in this deck compared to GCR, which is usually the prime choice for aggro decks because of that draw. But yeah, this card has a bunch of keywords. It's a 5/5, and then at the end phase of every turn, you're going to be able to buff it and draw a card as long as you banish a power cell card from your graveyard. Sorry, an automaton card from your graveyard, which is pretty easy to do. So this card is very MVP. You're not going to bring it out every game. It is more or less a backup option from what I felt. I want to talk about Manufacturer Cell next because this card is very tricky. My opponent did not think that I could use Overlord's effect on a turn, and I just went, okay, I'm going to Manufacture Cell and prereq and get an Automaton card in the graveyard, because if you look at this card, it does say Automaton, so you can banish this with Overlord and get his effect, which is really good, because usually the only way to get automatons in your graveyard are allies. So if your opponent just doesn't kill them early, you just draw a lot of them or something, you can kind of run out of Overlord's effect pretty quickly, but this card is insane. You're also wanting to use this card to summon out power cells so you can either kill your opponent with a big double swing or bring out Overlord MK. So this card is really good. Very nice card. Then we have 3 cell assemblers. So this is one of the changes that I made. He was running 4. The card felt a little too situational to me pretty often. You do really want to be making power cell tokens though, so I don't mind the 4 of, but honestly I just needed to cut space. He was running a 64 card list, which at True Champion Gaming we just can't do, man. We always got to run that 60 card list. I did feel like the 64 was making my draws just feel a little odd, so we cut one of these, but still a good automaton unit. Then we have 2 Charged Mannequin. This is also a card that I'd really love to run a 4 of. Even bringing out Mercurial Heart right away, let's say you got your Shimmercloak Assassin turn 1 or something, bring out Mercurial Heart, make that Assassin a 3/3 stealth, and then drop a couple Charged Mannequins. They're 2-drop 2/3s at that point because you do control that power cell. Really insane, but you just honestly kind of don't have the space in the list to run more. So I would love to increase that, but it's a fantastic card. Speaking of fantastic cards, Andronica is probably one of the scariest cards in this deck. This is a 3-drop 1/1, but as long as you imbue it, which you have like 12 norm cards in the deck or something, you're pretty much always going to imbue it. It'll get +1/+1 and Vigor, and then the on enter you'll be able to buff 2 automaton allies you control. This will be able to target itself. So you play Andronica, you can make her a 3/3 with Vigor and also buff one of your other allies. Again, let's say you did you know, a buffed Shimmercloak Assassin or something with the Mercurial Heart, then you later level up and then you drop an Andronica. Now you have this 4/4 stealth unit. That's just absolutely insane. You can do some really, really ridiculous things with this deck. You can also use this on a card like Eternal Magistrate and keep it alive longer as well. So this deck has kind of the best defense for Eternal Magistrate that I've seen compared to other decks. A lot of other decks can only save this card by like reclaiming it or Zephyring it, like kind of like getting it off the field, basically stopping the effect. This deck can continuously buff it, and so really, really nice, really easy way to keep it alive. This card is insane. It's a 1/3 2-drop automaton. Basically, you'd run it in this deck anyways, but then that imbue cost to stop your opponent from you know, dungeon guiding, majestic spirit, that's huge. Yeah, just really, really great card there. Then the card I've referenced a lot. Wind allies have played this card a lot throughout time. 3-drop 2/2 stealth is insane. This being an automaton in the deck just synergizes even more. So automaton just naturally kind of synergizes with a lot of the good wind ally cards, which is really, really nice. Then we have Cell Vanguard. Like I said, you want to be summoning power cell tokens. This card is absolutely crazy. 2-drop 1/2 with floating memory. We've talked about that kind of stat line before on the channel. It's a really, really good stat line because, yeah, it's not like impacting the board control, the aggro, like immediately when you play it. But it being a 2-drop 1/2 float means that your opponent's either going to have to put it in your graveyard, which you don't mind having the float. You have ways to use float in this deck. Or they're going to leave it on the board because they just don't have the resources or they don't value it enough to kill it. And then it's just going to consistently be a little bit of chip damage to help you fix killing allies or just pushing face more. So really, really good card there as well. Then we have 2 Rose. So Rose is not my favorite card in Wind Ally decks, but because this one is an automaton, it does make sense in this list. It has a lot of capabilities. If you read the card, you can start to see like what this outs. But it is just so expensive. 4-drop is a lot. This does actually allow you to play a little bit more passively in this list. Once you get an Overlord out, you know, you kind of are just like starting to snowball the game. And so I found that I could drop Overlord and then just kind of pass with a full card in a full hand. And in that instance, things like Rose are really, really good. But you know, it's always felt like a little bit of an awkward card to me, so I cut it from 3 from his list to 2. And one of the reasons I did that is to make room for Dream Fairy. Dream Fairy is a stupid good card. He wasn't running any in the main and only had 2 in the side. I did feel like in testing, this just kept being a hindrance to me. I like constantly wanted Dream Fairy. But again, space reasons. For the same reason that we're not running more Charged Mannequin, you just can't run 4 Dream Fairy. You do have ways to stop things that Dream Fairy are really good against, like you know, the most classic example of Dream Fairy is against Merlin when they incarnate Majesty, but you do have that Eternal Magistrate that you can buff so it won't just die to like a single Ghost of Pendragon or something. But this is also good in like ally matchups and just pretty much like almost any matchup it has some sort of use, so I did want to include that 2 Dream Fairy in there. Then I mentioned this card earlier. This is Rallied Advance. So this is a attack that can, with a class bonus, wake up an ally that you control. So if you have a automaton ally that you may be buffed with like Mercurial Heart or something, you then pop a power cell or 2 onto it, make it like a 7 attack at the ally, swing with it, use Rallied Advance, swing with it again. You can start doing 15, 16, 20 damage in 1 turn pretty easily. So Rallied Advance is really crazy. All right, we also have 4 Stifling Trap. So Dream Fairy is a good card. Overlord gets absolutely stomped by Dream Fairy. So 4 Stifling Trap is pretty necessary. It's obviously also really good against like Dungeon Guide, Storm Slime, Snow Fairy. There's so many utilities for this card. I really wanted to cut it down to 3 when I was trying to make more space in the list, but you just can't. It's such a good card, and in this list particularly, it's your biggest defense for your Overlord. All right, next up we have 4 Fairy Whispers. So it's pretty actually important to find cards that you want. This is a Wind Allies list that runs a lot more 2-ofs and stuff than most other kind of just like swarm ally lists. And so Fairy Whispers does just fit in here. Also, we have a very low count of Norm cards, so you should never miss on Fairy Whispers, unless you're Isaac. Then we have 4 Reclaim. Self-explanatory, every wind list is running that. Then we have 3 Favorable Winds. Again, you know, just keeping your allies alive is obviously really good. The floating class bonus generic, or sorry, non-class bonus floating, really nice. I was burning this constantly to just level up and control what card I banish. But yeah, trying to keep like an EMAG alive and stuff, really, really good. And then we have 3 Zephyrs, again, kind of just to keep your own allies alive and stuff. This is really good to Zephyr one of their allies that's trying to kill off an EMAG or what other ever ally you have. Especially with like Andronica, I was able to have them swing something into Andronica, retaliate with her, and then the next ally that they try to swing into our Zephyr that way, they passed, and I just basically got an insane amount of tempo from that interaction. So Zephyr is just really good for controlling the board, and also for just like the random interactions of, you know, Jin swinging at you with the Regalia weapon and stuff like that. Then we have 2 Hurricane Sweeps. So like I said, we have that level 2 Lorraine. Hurricane Sweep is just an insane card to pair with that. And you might just find yourself in a game situation where that is just winning you the game. It's too much tempo for them to recover from, especially against something like an Allies deck. And it's why we run that like Fairy Whispers, to be able to find these tech cards when we need them a little bit easier. Then we also have just 2 Veiling Breeze. So I kind of like this because we're also running 2 Innovate Agility. And so instead of running like 4 Veiling, we're running a mixture. And this is going to help you not just immediately lose to cards like Nullifying Mirror, which everyone's running right now because Veiling is so strong. And so 2 Veiling, 2 Innovate Agility is going to kind of really put them in an awkward position where do they even want to bring out Mirror and kind of waste that materialization? And so I just really like this combination. Innovate's also really good at protecting your whole board, and you know, it's a really, really cool defensive combination of cards. Let's briefly talk about the side deck. So the side deck is where I changed his list the most because, so the side deck is where I changed his list the most. I just think that there were a couple of matchups that I wanted to really prepare for, and so I did keep his Orb of Sealing. Full transparency, I haven't tested this deck against Slimes very much, so I just kept the Orb of Sealing because I hadn't tested against Slimes. I wanted to respect how he built the deck and keep that in there for that Slimes matchup. Then we have 1 more Veiling Breeze, just as a generic card, in case you find yourself against a deck that you feel like you need it. There's a lot of cards that you can bring out, like Hurricane Sweeps. You're going to side out your 2 Hurricane Sweeps from the main pretty often, so having cards like generic Veiling Breeze and stuff like that is kind of nice. But we do have the 2 Hurricane Sweep in the side as well, in case we are playing against that kind of Allies deck that you really feel like you want it. Then we have 2 more Dream Fairy. This is for if you're playing against Merlin, if you're playing against allies, any situation that Dream Fairy really feels like it's coming up, you want to have 4 in the main deck, I think. And then we have 3 Swift Recruits. So he did run Ace and Protectors. I chose to do Swift Recruit. Swift Recruit is really nice for a turn 1 play against a water deck, so they can't draw 8 and then Icebound Slam you. Ace is a little bit trickier to pull off with only 7 cards in hand, so I'm opting for Swift Recruit. Also getting that Floating Memory is really nice. If you're playing against water and you go Swift Recruit, they Icebound Slam, you intercept, and then you use that float to go to level 1 and start dropping, you know, Andronicas and stuff like that, like start really applying pressure, it can be really hard for them to come back from that. So, and you won't have taken that 8 damage where they can just cheese you out with a stratagem right away. So yeah, that's why I have Swift Recruit in the side here. And the final card is Scatter Essence. This is a card that just, I don't know, I feel very strongly about this card right now. I think this is an amazing card for the meta. There are a lot of water decks running around with Fractal of Rain that really kind of depend on that. And then also wind decks that are running Razor Gale. Even Merlin, you can hit their Spirit Fragment if they're going fragmented. Obviously, you don't want to let them eat the Floating Memory on their level 2, but like if you went first or something, it can be a little easier to utilize this. But yeah, just a really, really good card. I think this card is insane. One of the reasons that I actually want to play Wind right now is just to play this card alone. So guys, hopefully you found this pretty informative. We try to keep these medium length where we're not explaining every single card to death, but also trying to help out, especially the newer players that are joining the community. I know the game is growing every single day, so if you guys liked this content, you know, please like, subscribe, comment. All of that really does help. We are trying to do as much content as we possibly can. If you're looking for a little bit more competitive content, a little bit more focused on the higher level stuff, come check out our Patreon. Like I said, go join that free trial. Thank you all so much for joining us today as we talk about a really, really cool version of Wind Allies, probably my favorite version of Wind Allies that we've ever seen in this game. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.